Hey guys, this is Jon Blau, your Clemson sports reporter for the Post and Courier in Charleston. We're here for our weekly countdown to kickoff feature. We're going to preview the Florida State game first to appease my marketing overlords. Just want to tell you about the Tiger Take newsletter that we have. Basically, almost daily, we send out our stories with some extra tidbits. Anecdotes, all kinds of things, kind of give you guys an inside look on the beat and what it's like to be there covering the team. And then that leads back to, another one of our features, which is this countdown to kickoff, where we're going to talk about Florida State. And we have, again, longtime SID for Clemson football, Tim Bouret. Tim, how you doing?
Good to be with you, John. How you doing?
Doing all right. Obviously, things are a little sad in Tiger Town. It's been a rough season. Lost on the road at Pittsburgh, 27-17, and just the injuries and all the things that just keep happening. It just seems like a season that's just unlike any other we've seen in a really long time. I mean, can you think of anything even comparable to this, Tim, from when you were a sports information director for Clemson?
No, I really can't, and you can kind of go the opposite direction to put it in perspective. 2018, we won the national championship. I went through the media guide supplement and looked at all the guys who started that year, and I counted 19 of the 24 positions had the same guys started 14, at least 14 or 15 of the games. And that does not include the quarterback position where, we didn't have an injury. Dabo just made a change from Kelly Bryant to Trevor Lawrence. So, and it's really been a hallmark. I haven't done it for 1981 yet, but it was similar in 1981. We had very few injuries, and in 2016 also. As big as anything is the lack of cohesiveness we've had in the offensive line because of all the injuries, and that might be the most important area of a football team as far as having a cohesive unit. Dabo talked about that last year. We didn't have great depth in the offensive line, but those same five guys started almost every game, and we averaged 40 points and 500 yards per game last season. So that has an awful lot to do with it. And so that's been a big deal, and we've got more injuries obviously this week, or COVID with Pace out this week.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me, today in the newsletter, the Tiger Take actually wrote about Mac Bockhorst, who gave a very emotional press conference. Obviously, he's out for the season with an ACL injury, so that's another deal that they're dealing with. And I also remembered, I forgot earlier, if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, it's postandcourier.com/the Tiger Take. I forgot to say that. But yeah, no, it's a Bockhorst going down. That was a real vocal leader and center for that offense. And he was doing really well since he was playing the actual center position, moved over to guard, was really helping them gain some traction in the run game. Now he's out. I mean, how tough do you feel like that loss is in particular on the offensive line, Tim, just as a player, but then also as a vocal leader for them?
Yeah, I think it's a big loss. And, we had 138 yards total offense in the first quarter, was really running the ball effectively against Pittsburgh. And then, he goes out, and, that's a big factor. Unlike a lot of these teams that have fifth and sixth year guys in their offensive line, guys that decided to come back because of the extra year from COVID, we really don't have a lot of those guys. And he was by far the most experienced that we've had. From being at all the interviews every week, what a leader is. I always said, and when I was sports information director, you can really see your team leaders by the guys who are stand-up guys who come and do the interviews, and whether we win or we lose. And, he was certainly, one of those guys, and you could see the passion he has for the school and the program yesterday. And I had a couple of people called me and said that you might as well go ahead and, this is your first year, that at the end of the year, they give a Tim Bouret award to the guy who represented himself the best in the media throughout the year. And so I had a couple of people call me and said, you can just go ahead and have your picture made with Matt Bockhorst, that award's probably in the bank, because he certainly did represent the program very very well. And I do think it was a positive move when they moved him away from center back to his more natural guard position. I thought that made a difference in our ground attack. Our rushing offense has really been pretty good in recent weeks. I think we averaged 4.9 yards a carry so far in the month of October. And run effect, I believe I saw the stat that our 5.5 yards a carry against Pittsburgh was the best by a Pittsburgh opponent since 2018.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing really well. I mean, literally, he got hurt the play before they score a touchdown. I mean, they go all the way down the field to the 1 yard line. He's down with an ACL injury. Then Phil Maffa scores in the next play. So, it'll be interesting to see how they work the offensive line from here. Obviously, Hunter Rayburn, who was out with COVID the last couple of weeks, he can come back. Mason Trotter has been playing center in his absence. The coaching staff actually feels like he's been doing a pretty decent job. So does Hunter Rayburn now switch off at center with Mason Trotter? Do you play him some at guard? Do you just stick with Marcus Tate and Paul Teo and all those guys at guard? It'll be interesting to see. And you were talking about the lack of continuity. I'm remembering the stat right now. Dabo Sweeney said something like 43 different starters thus far this year, and that's through 7 games. The whole season last year, which was the COVID season, that was supposed to be the craziest season of all, they had 40. So they've already surpassed that. And Kobe Pace is out this week too, with COVID as well. So it's 3 straight weeks they've had somebody out. It was Hunter Rayburn, then Joseph Ngata, and now Kobe Pace. So how you build continuity as an offense, I'm not really sure, but they'll need to against Florida State. I don't know if you've looked at the stats. I'm sure you have, Tim. I actually saw one of your stats. What's the average yard per carry for Florida State in the month of October?
Yeah, 6.91 yards a carry, John, which is the number one, in the country. For them offensively, and they've got some guys who have really done well. They're the opposite of Clemson. That they've had a lot of breakaway touchdowns. I remember one guy had an 89-yarder against my alma mater, Notre Dame, in the first game of the season. He also has a 75-yard run. So yeah, they've been able to to break some. So it's going to be a test for the Clemson defense for sure. They're, I believe, 6 of the 7 games Florida State has rushed for at least 200 yards. So they've shown some consistency in that area. Now, I will say I don't think they've played a defense as good as Clemson so far this year. So that'll be, and Clemson's got a lot of tape on what they like to do. So we'll be interested to see.
Yeah, the only ACC team thus far to hold Florida State under 200 is Wake Forest. They held them to 90.
Isn't that ironic? A Wake Forest team that's given up at least 350 yards rushing their last 2 games. And by the way, they've won. I don't know if I've ever seen a team give up 350 on the ground and win. It might have happened in the 80s when everybody ran the ball, but that's a very rare statistic.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But ball control, we've talked about that. Obviously, you talk about explosive plays. They can break off really long plays, but also, can Florida State keep the ball away and limit the opportunities of Clemson's offense? And Clemson's offense seem to need as many opportunities as possible this year. You were mentioning the guy with some of the real breakaway runs to Sean Corbin, just Sean Corbin. He's averaging 7.9 yards per carry, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's a amazing stat. Rashawn Ward, 7.4 yards per carry. That's their second leading rusher. And then Jordan Travis is the guy who's going to be really, really interesting. That's the quarterback. At the beginning of the year, they were kind of trying to figure out who their guy was going to be behind center. But the last couple of games, again, they started 0-4. They've now won 3 straight games. Travis rushed for 113 versus Syracuse and 121 versus North Carolina. And he also had 3 touchdowns passing in that game. So Clemson's defense, in terms of their discipline, being able to handle a quarterback who can make plays with his feet, again, going to be tested, kind of similar to Syracuse with Garrett Schrader and Yates. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch.
I was exactly, I was getting ready to make that point, but you said, we have been down this road before when we've faced a quarterback who can and run, and we defended him well. I think we held Trader to 6 yards rushing, and that was the key to that victory. So certainly going to have to get the tape from that out. And of course, we know Coach Venables is a master at coming up with those types of defenses. And of course, Syracuse had a really good running back also, who's what do you have 160 yards against is 150. So they've I don't know. We'd have to ask Coach to see if there are great differences between the way Syracuse attacks it run wise and Florida State. But we have at least been down this road before.
Yeah, and I guess I've gone 10 minutes without bringing this up. So shifting gears to the quarterback for Clemson, DJ Uyunglele and Tyson Pumachan haven't exactly called it a quarterback competition, quote unquote, but they're opening things up and evaluating everyone is what the coaching staff said, and that includes the quarterback. So we don't know yet who's going to start behind center. Tyson Pumachan got in for 2 series against Pittsburgh. Was 3 of 7. I think it was 25 yards. Passing with a couple of nice runs. He showed an ability to run with his legs. DJ came back in and led a touchdown drive. He just never got the ball back after they scored with 8 minutes left, which was one of Dabo Swinney's great regrets about that game. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I think one of the interesting comments that Tony Elliott said was that he kind of compared it to the Marcus Tate situation, where Marcus Tate was a true freshman. They put him in at guard. Things were moving a little fast for him. They pulled him back, tried to take a little pressure off of him and say, let's try this again. Look at it, get back in there. And he's played better since. And this is similar maybe with DJ. Obviously a very different situation with being a quarterback. A lot of intense pressure on a quarterback, but trying to take some pressure off of him. Do we think, I guess, that, is that an easy thing? I guess. I don't know. You've been around football programs, quarterback competitions, conversations. How do you handle the flow of just all the chatter and kind of making sure a guy's confidence isn't beat up by this? And how do they come out of it, I guess?
As that great philosopher Yogi Berra once said, it's 90% half mental. And what I mean by that is, there is the psychological aspects of things, and that can be important. One thing I've noticed, when has DJ played his best football? Well, last year when he was the starter against Boston College and against Notre Dame, and he threw for 700 yards, the most passing yardage ever against Notre Dame, which is just, amazing when you think of all the quarterbacks Notre Dame has played against. But, he knew he wasn't going to be the starter going forward or when that 2-game run was over. And then a microcosm of that was kind of like, well, he started against Pitt and they take him out and then they put him in, and oh, boom, he when kind of I don't want to say the pressure was off, but, he almost came in as the backup in that fourth quarter. We took him on the drive and took us right down the field. So, what does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it means to me that, and I don't know anything about what they're going to do, but when you look at it, what we've seen, maybe you start Pumachan and have a real quick hook, and maybe DJ's more comfortable, coming off the bench. I don't know. Of course, the coaches could look at it and says, well, he gained confidence on that last drive. Let's try to piggyback off of that and start him and see what he can do. I will say this, as you look at the ACC stats, so the number 1 team in total defense in the ACC is NC State. Number 2 is Pittsburgh. Number 3 is Syracuse. Clemson's 4 and Boston College is 5. So DJ has played against 4 of the top 5 defenses in the ACC. What we have left in the ACC is number 8, Florida State, number 11, Louisville, and number 13, Wake Forest. So he has played against the tougher defenses, not to mention the number 1 defense in the whole country in Georgia. So, they may look at it from that standpoint that let's see what he can do. We're not playing the higher echelon defenses the rest of the way. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing that was kind of odd about it. I mean, obviously, DJ Dabo Swinney said had his best game of the year against Syracuse. It felt like he was trending in the right direction. But just a couple of things went wrong in that game against Pittsburgh, where there's that interception, obviously to Justin Ross, trying to get it up to him on kind of a busted play, almost doing an interception before the end of the half. Then that shovel pass that's picked off, and it just felt like they needed to change something up in that moment. But he has been playing better football, so it's not like he hit a new low, I guess, in that game. It was just some really unfortunate circumstances. And Dabo Swinney's also said, like you said, going up against those really good defenses, but the offense of Clemson itself has had a lot of issues that aren't just DJ Uiagalelei. I mean, the offensive line, young receivers, different receivers in and out. Now it's, again, without Kobe Pace, it's just going to be Phil Maffa and Will Shipley. There's a lot going on around DJ. So I don't know. It's interesting to see if, again, you open it up, let DJ maybe win the week of practice, gain some confidence from that, come in, keep playing. This may all be for nothing. I mean, it may just be moot that we see DJ again, but it is something interesting to watch. And like you've said, they have played some pretty good defenses. So we'll see how DJ plays in that aspect. And then just running the ball, Will Shipley, again, like I said, he had that one play against Pittsburgh. And again, all the weird things that happened in that Pittsburgh game, wide open down the seam. Probably was going to be a 60-yard touchdown, drops it. Tony Elliott says he probably makes that play 9 out of 10 times. Will Shipley says, I make it 99 out of 100 times, is what he said. I guess he was coming back from an injury. I mean, I guess was it kind of, hard to expect him to be completely 100%, that early in a game like that. And do we expect him to kind of, I guess, ease his way back in, coming back from that injury? He was out for about a month.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I think as far as pure running the ball, with Shipley and Maffa, I think we'll be fine this week. I think we're really going to miss Pace could be in pass blocking. Since the first game, we've done pretty well as far as protecting DJ. He got sacked 7 times in the first game, but I think we've only given up, a sack a game, or maybe a sack and a third a game, since then. And I think obviously pass blocking is something that running backs improve on over the course of their career. I remember Travis Etienne, he couldn't pass block at all his freshman year. And then by the time he was a senior, he was really good at it. So that's something we might have to look for. I don't know if that means you might have to get some quicker passes out of the backfield. And the other thing you bring up with the injury with Shipley is, we expect a freshman to just come back and be the same way he was, a month later. I think that's had an impact on Ross. I mean, Ross has had some drops this year. He hasn't been as good as he was as a freshman and sophomore. But hey, you know how serious his back surgery was that he's had to come back from. And he was basically, not, playing for a year. So it takes a while for he's made some great plays. He's had some other plays he could have made, but people seem to discount that, but I think that's been important factors additionally. So we not only do we have a lot of guys hurt, we've got guys who are playing, coming back from being hurt or trying to play hurt.
Right. And Shipley, I guess maybe that's, he's a 5-star. Justin Ross, again, played as well as he did as a sophomore, but just expects everything to pick up. And DJ, the same thing, comes in 2 games with a more experienced team around him and just lights the world on fire. And so then you see this year and you're like, well, what the heck's going on? But yeah, a lot of struggles. Dabo made some jokes about being on the street. I think it was actually Gene Sapikoff that asked him the question, and people just don't want to look him in the eye right now. And a lot of, I'm praying for you, things like that. So
I got a kick out of him saying he had people writing notes and dropping them in his mailbox, which I guess is true because I couldn't think he could make that up.
I don't know. I mean, Dabo is a good talker. I guess that actually brings me to another subject I wanted to talk about. He went 10 minutes on Bobby Bowden yesterday. He was asked about Bobby. He talked a lot about him during fall camp, obviously, because Bobby Bowden passed away at that time. But they are honoring Bobby Bowden as well as Tommy Bowden is coming back, his son, and the former Clemson coach. And so an interesting moment there. I guess, have you ever seen Dabo talk for more than that on a single subject? I mean, 10 minutes is I feel like that might be a new world record.
No, he has many times before. And he actually told me that story when it happened. When he went down there with Dabo was the recruiting coordinator, before he was the head coach. So I dealt with him a lot as an assistant coach. And I remember him telling me that story, how he got to meet Bobby Bowden when he went down there on a recruiting trip and was with Tommy. And then Tommy left just the two of them, together in his room and in Bobby Bowden's office. And he told that story. But I did write an article for this weekend's program in the last word about Bobby Bowden and the positive effect he had on our program, which is unbelievable considering that Bobby Bowden beat Clemson 14 times more than any other opposing coach. Yet he had probably the most positive effect an opposing coach could have on the program through just the teachings of him to his son Tommy, who then of course passed them on to Dabo. When you look at the elements of Clemson's culture, many of them, their source is back to Bobby Bowden, whether it be the family atmosphere, how you treat your assistant coaches, and you notice that was a common denominator between Clemson's program and the Florida State great era when they had 14 straight top fives, is the consistency of the staff and just many other things that contribute to a culture of a program that Dabo really adopted from Tommy, who got him from Bobby.
Yeah. Was he really, you remember him telling you that story about meeting Bobby Bowden? I guess, was he really wide-eyed? Do you remember, like, actual starstruck? It sounds like he was, starstruck by being able to meet him.
Yeah, he certainly explained it that way. And of course, at that time it happened in, let's see, let me think, 2003 or 4. Dabo's first year back was 2003. Now, of course, Dabo shouldn't have been that starstruck about, but, you got to remember now, he's an Alabama guy, and Bobby Bowden was kind of an Alabama legend, even though he never coached at Alabama, but everybody kind of looked at him as being the Alabama coach someday, which never happened. But I know he did have great respect and admiration for Bobby Bowden. And ironically, the last time that Bobby Bowden coached against Clemson, Dabo was the one who beat him in 2009.
Yeah. I guess he also told the story of, again, it was 10 minutes long, so he went on a lot of different stories about a chapel, I guess, that Bobby Bowden gave at the age of 90. I don't know if you were there, but he talked about, he came in with a cane, kind of like threw it away, and he was back to being, Bobby Bowden from 50 years prior in terms of his energy, enthusiasm, and all that.
Yeah, I was not there that day. That did happen after I retired, so I was going to go to although he would let me go to the meetings if I wanted to, but I do remember him sending me a picture of the two of them after, when he was in his office later that day, and actually telling me, about it, and just how he thought that was the greatest thing ever, that this 90-year-old coach who's still as sharp as could be could give such a terrific message. And all the players knew what he, who he was and what he, stood for. And I think Dabo looked at that and almost kind of like, well, I hope I last this long and I'm this sharp and can address the football team when I'm 90 years old. Down the road. Again, another example of the great admiration that Dabo has for Bobby Bowden and the Bowden family in general.
Yeah, I think Dabo was asked how long he could coach, I think yesterday as well. And I think he said he could probably go another 20 years, get to 70. Wasn't sure about 90. Did he joke that like Nick Saban could go maybe a little bit
He
longer?
see he joked that. I mean, I don't know how old is Nick, 68 maybe. And he
Something
said,
like that.
who knows? Maybe Saban will go another 20 years into his 80s as a coach. So, but Dabo's in pretty good shape. He stays in good shape. So, who knows how long he's going to go? You know, we forget about, you know, when I was growing up or I was in school, you know, looking at coaches that were coaching in the 60s. I looked at them as being, wow, those guys are really old. And you know, growing up in Notre Dame, no Notre Dame coach coached after the age of 55 until Holtz did. Holtz was still coaching in 59, and now Brian Kelly just turned 60. He's the oldest person ever to coach Notre Dame in history. You know, who knows how long Newt Rockne would have gone if he wasn't killed in that plane crash at the age of 42. But yeah, today coaches do coach a lot longer, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Penn State, so Joe Paterno was there when I was there. He was in his 80s,
Yeah.
so you can go a while. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
things didn't end great there for different reasons, which I won't go completely into. But yeah, it's happened, and I remember seeing him up there and just being like, "Wow, this guy's, you know, I don't know how much longer he's going to go with everything," because he was in his 80s. But he was still able to do it, and they were still winning football games. So you never know. But yeah, so I guess back to Florida State just for a quick moment. I guess, are there any keys to the game, like the most important thing you feel like when they're playing Florida State to kind of try to get back on track after a tough loss?
Well, you know, against Pittsburgh, I thought the key was for us to hit some downfield passes, which we hadn't done much of all year. And we only hit 2 passes of 20 yards or more in that game. And I think that was a bit of a key. I think a key in this game against Florida State would be stopping the run. But now that's something that Clemson does well. So I feel a lot better about this game than I did about the Pittsburgh game, you know, because of that. Tyler Davis had a pitch count on him last week. I don't think he's going to have a pitch count on him this week. He couldn't play in the fourth quarter. They held him out of the fourth quarter because of that. I look for him to go the distance in this game, and that certainly is going to you know, help matter. So you know, defending the run, I think, is something Clemson does well, and so that's why I feel I see that as a key to the game, to answer your question. And Clemson does that well, as opposed to last week where I thought the key to the game, Clemson didn't do well.
Yeah, and I'll go back to the other side of the ball again, running the ball in terms of this offensive line. How does it mesh again with Bockhorst no longer there? Be able to move the chains with either DJ or Tyson at quarterback. How well can they do that? Like you said, they face some of the better defenses in the ACC. They're starting to get to the ones that don't rank quite as high. Can they now begin to, you know, really churn out some offense this latter stage of the season?
Yeah,
So
Florida State, I noticed, John, is 8th in the ACC in rush defense, so they haven't been all that great in defending the run.
Right. So there's opportunity there. Phil Maffa and Shipley can capitalize if their blockers can get it going for them. And just one more point, you're talking about Tyler Davis, that thing he has on his arm, that cast or it's a brace, I guess. So his bicep isn't moving that much. He almost looks like a robot out there. It's just
yeah, I heard Dabo talk about that. And yeah, I mean, it's talked about not stretching it out, I guess, but don't you have to do that to make a tackle sometimes? So I don't know, but he played pretty well with it Saturday. So hopefully he's going to get better.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the end of our program here today. I'll do one more spiel on the Tiger Take newsletter. If you want to subscribe to that, that's postandcourier.com/the Tiger Take. We will be back again next week talking about when it's going to be Louisville.
The team of mystery.
Yes. That's going to be an interesting one to talk about. We have a week to think about it. But again, thanks, Tim, for stopping by and talking with me, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good, John.
All right, we'll see you.